Welcome back my fellow Spartans to the Triple S Variety channel. I'm your host Triple S, and in this video I'll be breaking down and reviewing the third episode of the first season of the Halo TV show titled Emergence. Now let's begin. Point number 1, this is not the first time we have seen Oban, though in the blue timeline it's a moon, not a planet, with it first appearing as the multiplayer map Daybreak in Halo 4, and also appearing in issue 13 of the comic series Halo Escalation. Point number 2, Jesus, what the hell is this guy's problem? He hates kids that much, he'd beat one to death and then cattle prod another? He deserved worse than just being shoulder barged by an elite. He should have been sliced in half with an energy sword. Point number 3, and Makee ending up with a scar from her cattle prodding is why a lot of people then decided to refer to her as the female arbiter, because it reminded them of Thelvadami, being branded with the mark of shame at the start of Halo 2. It's a pretty superficial comparison though, since Makee and Thel aren't anything alike really. We interrupt this Triple S Variety channel video to bring you this important message. Have you remembered to carry out the 3 S's? S number 1, subscribe to the Triple S Variety channel. S number 2, smash that like button. And S number 3, share this video with friends, family, and relevant communities. We now return you to your Triple S Variety channel video already in progress. Point number 4, I wonder if the luminary these elites are using here is a Forerunner original or a Covenant reverse engineered version. A luminary is a device designed to scan for and identify Forerunner relics, and also it turns out reclaimers, and in the blue timeline a standard Covenant luminary is shaped like a series of 3 silver pyramids, 2 smaller ones spotting an upside down larger one in the centre, and can be found on every Covenant ship. If this luminary though isn't a Forerunner original, then the Covenant of the Silver Timeline either chose a more portable design for their reverse engineered luminaries, or created a portable version in addition to a larger version which is kept on the ship for more large scale scanning, whereas the portable version is used for more precision locating of Forerunner relics, or in this case, blessed ones. Point number 5.
The results confirm it's over 100,000 years old. That's pre-human.
Are you sure about that?
Point number 6, so the keystone is both organic and technology, reminds me of another Forerunner creation, the biomechanical Huragok, also known as engineers. Point number 7, Halsey here tells her clone that only 35 of the children she chose managed to survive the augmentation procedures, which is a little different than what happened in the blue timeline. Initially, the Spartan 2 project in the blue timeline had funding for 300 quote-unquote candidates, then later was cut down to 150, and then again it was cut down to 75. The augmentations would kill 30 of the 75, giving us 45, and another 12 would wash out with physical deformities, leaving us with 33. For only 35 of the children to survive augmentation in the Silver Timeline, that means 40 died, not 30. If indeed the same number of children, 75, were kidnapped for the program, which seems likely since Clone Halsey comments on more than half of the children dying, and we don't know how many or if any of the children washed out. Certainly not 12, since in the blue timeline, Soren was so physically deformed he was given desk duty due to not being able to wear Mjolnir armor or handle a weapon. However, we learned in the flashback in the previous episode, Silver Timeline Soren didn't wash out as he could in fact wear Mjolnir armor, and as we see in future episodes can indeed handle at least some weapons. But if we then say 11 of the 35 did in fact wash out, then that would mean the Silver Timeline has significantly less Spartans to send out onto the battlefield than the Blue Timeline, 24 as opposed to 33, a major disadvantage for humanity in their war with the Covenant. Point number 8, yes, let me just inject you with something that will leave you fully awake but unable to move and then attempt to kiss you. Dude's almost as creepy as Ace Chapman. Point number 9, holy hell, the procedures in the Silver Timeline are leagues more brutal than their counterparts in the Blue Timeline. The augmentation of the Spartans apparently killed 40 rather than 30, and this cognitive impression modelling has to be used on an actual living person whilst fully awake. Contrast this with the blue timeline, where since it's illegal to use an AI matrix compiler on a living person, it can only be used on the brain of someone who has recently died. Since blue timeline Halsey was already breaking the law by secretly flash cloning herself 20 times, I don't know if she cared much about breaking the law of using an AI matrix compiler on a living brain, but in any case, she chose to not do that. Instead, she euthanized the clones and took the last few brains that were good enough to use and put them into cryogenic storage. She decided to not go the route of seemingly liquefying the brain of one of her clones whilst they were alive and awake, making Silver Timeline Halsey look even more like a heartless nutcase. Point number 10, so because of the altered intended purpose of Cortana, where she's meant to essentially replace the mind of the Master Chief with her own, she's directly implanted into Chief's brain, as opposed to in the blue timeline where she's on a data chip that can be placed into a Spartan's helmet, a ship, the control room of a Halo ring for some reason. Silver Timeline Cortana is a permanent companion for Master Chief, unless surgically removed, which means she can't now be lost or stolen or left behind, requiring Chief to rescue her. She kind of reminds me of Clarence from Penumbra Black Plague. Point number 11, oh my god, why isn't she just like completely naked? Where are her tits? How am I supposed to factor this? Ugh. Point number 12.
When the game is over, the king and the pawn go back into the same box. box.
First words for both Timeline Cortanas, though Blue Timeline Cortana said it in Italian. Halsey's mother said this to Halsey after their first ever game of chess together, the first and last time Halsey's mother ever won. Point number 13, along with not choosing her own name, Silver Timeline Cortana also hasn't chosen her own appearance. Blue Timeline Cortana chose to resemble a combination of a young Halsey plus Miranda plus a little bit of her own invention. Point number 14, so if I'm understanding Halsey correctly, the tiny little implant in Chief's head is able to excite hollow particles in the atmosphere, which allows Cortana to appear in any environment. So humanity in 2552 has the technology to make illusions. Why aren't they using this on the battlefield as like a distraction or intimidation tactic? Point number 15, does this ship not have a dumb AI that can immediately call out this quite important information? This woman is acting way too casual for the sudden appearance of a slit space anomaly, which they somehow detected before it actually happened, which could mean the imminent appearance of a Covenant ship, which is what actually happens. So it's a good thing the Corvette was playing dead, or the Gladius would have been dead meat with its captain staring gormlessly out of the window, rather than immediately ordering evasive maneuvers, weapons to fire at will, and an immediate blind slit space jump. Unless, of course, in this timeline, human ships can go head-to-head with Covenant ships without needing significant numerical advantage, though even then, I highly doubt a patrol ship would be any kind of a match against a Covenant Corvette. Point number 16, who is this babe? Holy shit, she's beautiful. Point number 17, does this guy really believe every Covenant on board this ship abandoned it in escape pods, mid-slit space jump, and for some reason left one lone human alive on board? Or does he think the Covenant abandoned ship without, I don't know, self-destructing it, or attempted to slit space jump to Covenant space, and then the one lone human aboard managed to somehow get the ship into slit space on their own? How the hell did this moron get himself to the position as captain of a ship? Point number 18, it sucks that this is the only time in this entire season we see a hunter. I wanted to see a fight scene akin to in Forward Unto Dawn, though in daytime rather than night. Point number 19, I've heard people take issue with what Cortana does to Chief as putting him into stasis, like a, you keep using that word, I do not think it means what you think it means, issue with it. But I think it's because people are getting a little confused thinking these pods we see Chief and others jumping into to chill out for extended periods of time are stasis pods. That's not what they're called, they're cryo chambers, and what's happening to the people inside the pods isn't referred to as stasis, but cryosleep. As far as I know, humanity in 2552 didn't have any technology they referred to as stasis. The foreigners did though, and their leftover technology has resulted in the Covenant possessing it via reverse engineering. And since one of the definitions of stasis is a period or state of inactivity, I think it adequately applies to what Cortana does to Chief here. Point number 20, I like how we just see a bumblebee casually flying away from the Corvette with no explanation as to how it even docked with the alien ship. The crew of the Gladius are under the impression the Corvette has no power, so the energy shields at the hangar bays would have gone offline and the emergency doors, which I presume the Covenant would be smart enough to have, would have closed. So how did the Bumblebee even dock if it couldn't get into the hangar? I doubt there's an airlock that's compatible for the Bumblebee to attach to. Why aren't the Gladius crew more skeptical of how Makee managed to get onto the Bumblebee? Point number 21, another small timeline difference I guess, Gladius class heavy corvettes in the Silver timeline do in fact carry troops. Point number 22, why is the captain of the ship here right at the front putting himself in the most danger? What is this, Star Trek? Point number 23, I guess none of these guys decided to try firing a shot at Makee for the hell of it. I mean, I get why they were focusing on the let go low. If you had to choose between shooting the vicious dog running towards you or the unarmed owner that's standing back, you'd most likely shoot at the dog. But still, the captain right here could have fired this shot at Makee, who's right in front of him, walking in slow motion towards him, rather than at a worm before retreating, since obviously she's with the let go low, so why not, right? Point number 24, I have heard people call into question that if the let go low are so dangerous as individual worms, why would they ever join together to form Magellan Golo? Well, the lethality of a swarm of Let Golo isn't something new to Halo. In the Bestiarium included with the Legendary and Collector's Editions of Halo 3, the strength of individual Let Golo is described as prodigious, meaning enormous, huge, unnatural, or monstrous. And Magellan Golo are also the rarest of the forms Let Golo take. This is why you don't see the Covenant fielding massive armies of hunters against humanity in ground combat. They just don't have the numbers to do so. The main purpose of Let Golo forming Magellan Golo is to interact with other Covenant species and the technology more effectively. It's also important to mention that the Let Golo we see here came from a Magellan Golo, which means all these individual worms are bonded to each other in a sort of hive mind, allowing them to work together to pull off this attack. Non-bonded Let Golo wouldn't be able to do all this. So yeah, Let Golo bonding together to form Magellan Golo allows them to combine their strength and intelligence, developing a personality. It also allows them to utilize armor to protect themselves and use weapons to inflict more damage to enemies. I mean, sure, a swarm of Let Golo can do this to a group of humans, but they wouldn't be able to do much against a Scorpion tank or a Spartan. Give them some incredibly tough armor and an assault cannon, and boy, it's a whole different story then, I tell you what. So I actually don't mind find it seeing Lekgolo being this effective outside of the armor we're used to seeing them in, because it's been a thing in Halo but never shown outside of in Halo Nightfall with the Lekgolo, another form of Lekgolo. Point at number 25. So we hear an announcement of the Core Protocol commencing, or is she saying Core Protocol? It's kind of hard to make out. Anyway, we see later General Order 098831A-1 has been activated, which is the Core Protocol, and is why all data on the Gladius has been erased so that the Covenant can't gain access to it against humanity. However, a major part of the Core Protocol is, in case of imminent capture by Covenant forces and borders, all UNSC ships must self-destruct, and yet the Gladius doesn't self-destruct. So that's 2 times now a ship enacting the Core Protocol didn't self-destruct when it should have, the Gladius in the Silver timeline and the Pillar of Autumn in the Blue timeline. I mean, it's a good thing Keyes didn't self-destruct the ship, since that meant Chief and Cortana could do it themselves later on, but it's like, why didn't you do it, Keyes? Why? And why didn't the captain of the Gladius? Point number 26, and once again, I love people calling out Makee's finger energy blade as being ridiculous because they're all of a sudden experts on what technology the Covenant are capable of creating, and because at the time they thought the entirety of the technology of the blade was just in her fingernail. This latter point is another classic example of people jumping the gun in their judgment of something, since we see in episode 8 Allegiance, the finger energy blade is significantly more than just her fingernail. It pays to wait to call something out as being definitively bad writing or definitively bad world building, so that you don't end up looking like an idiot when you're proven wrong later on. That's all I'm saying. Point number 27, you noticed how even this early there is a clear division in Silver Team. Vanek and Riz are playing some form of 3-dimensional chess, whilst Kai is sat on her own doing some form of a memory game, and when Chief joins them, Vanek and Riz stand the same way, whilst Kai stands like Chief. Nice little attention to detail there. Point number 28, the infamous scene that gave everyone the idea to start calling Master Chief Master Cheeks. All I have to say about that is, damn, those are some master cheeks. Point number 29, I really don't understand the issue people have with this scene of Chief experiencing things whilst being able to actually feel emotions properly for the first time. Oh wait, I do understand. It's because men aren't supposed to have feelings.
No, I don't have feelings, because feelings are gay.
And then, people also called out Chief being so fixated on this dog as being weird, but like, if you actually used your brain, you'd realise he's staring at the dog because he used to have a dog when he was a kid, and seeing this one reminds him of interacting with the Keystone. Point number 30, and another issue people have is this recreation of the larger Keystone Chief drew on Eridanus 2, with the main point of contention being how would Cortana know what it would even look like, even with Chief describing it to her. But I don't think it's too far-fetched to believe that if an artist was asked to look at the first Keystone, then draw a larger version using a similar design with the added details of approximate dimensions for it, and that the first Keystone has to fit inside of it, that they would end up coming up with something looking quite similar to what Cortana has created here. Point number 31, okay, so how does Makee know how to do this? Is this what she does in her spare time whilst hanging out on High Charity, mess around with captured human ships? Point number 32, Makee. I know you're mad you weren't able to find out anything from the Gladius' database, but did you really have to go into so much detail in your ranting transmission? To round all this off, my most disliked part of the episode goes to all the rubble scenes, I guess. Not because they were bad, but because I just didn't care at all about what was happening with Kwan and Soren. That's why I didn't mention them at all in this video. And my most liked part of the episode goes to seeing Master Chief's ass. Just kidding, I think I'll actually go with the Lekgolo swarming the Gladius scene. Though Chief do be looking quite fine though, damn. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Triple S Variety channel. Don't forget to do the 3 S's, and also why not leave a comment below pointing out anything I missed but you noticed. I would love to hear from you all. I've been Triple S, you've all been amazing, and I shall see you all in the next video.